Welcome to GEAUX STROS. Let me tell you a little story. This is about a team that built a 10-game lead in their division in the American League West. 10 full games, and you could say that the fans became pretty happy about that, relaxed. They felt that maybe the season is pretty much wrapped up for the rest of the year, should be all right. We think so. It felt like the race for the playoffs, it was over. It was all but assured. Their primary rival, well, there were two. Closest rival, they started putting together a little bit of a run. They got things together, but at that time they were written off, and it was pretty clear that the team in first place, they were going to get to the end of the season. But then the cushion started to shrink. So week by week, that lead started to dwindle away. The underdog seemed to get better and better, while the front runner was slipping more and more. Second place team was breathing down the neck of the first place team. By late summer, it was neck and neck, essentially, you could say. That 10-game lead had gone down to 0, tied. The race became a coin flip, and nobody would really know how it would come out until several weeks later. Now, I want you to hold that story in mind just for a moment. We're going to look at some information about the Astros. We'll come back to that story to see how it ends a little later. Okay, stick around for that. This is part 1, the 2025 Astros, but without the noise and all the emotion. First of all, obviously this season for the Astros has not been simple, not even once. They opened the year with a rotation that was full of question marks. They were missing key batters, pitchers. Arrighetti had a freak injury. Garcia and France were shelved. Blanco went out for the year. McCullers was delayed even more. And the whole time that was happening, the Astros bats were just kind of sputtering. For a while, it just looked like they were going to stay in last place. And they were. They were there, and it looked like they were going to stay there. But then they started to become steadier. Jeremy Pena thrived in the top of the batting order. Myers began to surge. He was a massive surprise. From a backup guy to an everydayer. Paredes came in and became a core bat after Bregman left. The bullpen held tight, became strong. Suddenly, a patched-together club was climbing. They surged, and yeah, they actually built a double-digit lead over the second-place team. It was quite amazing. That's literally what happened. And that is the part of the truth of this season. We can't forget that. Now, part 2. The deadline reality. The spending versus allocation. Regarding the trade deadline, the front office chose a particular path. Dana Brown added Carlos Correa, who was brought back to Houston, Jesus Sanchez, and Ramon Urias. Jim Crane is the one who approved the spend, obviously, even though there were tax implications. This is a luxury tax where the Astros have to pay more because they're spending more, right? So he decided to spend a little more and bring these guys in, primarily hoping to bolster the defense and the bats. Now here's the non-emotional straight read, okay? The question about this year's trade deadline move wasn't or shouldn't be, did they actually spend money? The question should be, if any, where did they allocate the money? They invested in bats and infield stability instead of another starting pitcher. So that's a strategic choice. It's not any type of proof of neglect of the team, and it's not a lack of spending. I think that reasonable people can debate that choice, but the fact of the matter is that it was a choice, and it wasn't an issue of being stingy. Accusing Jim Crane of being stingy and not spending money is incorrect. He's actually, I think the Astros are 12th. No, they literally are 12th in the major leagues in spending. And they are over the tax threshold. So saying that Jim Crane is not a spender is unfair. What is correct, and what could be debated, is how they spend the money. And that is an opinion. Part 3. what we call the August wall, okay? Right now it is, as I speak, August 19th, 2025. What has actually happened right now? Well, August hurts. There's no other way to say it. We just lost. A few hours ago, I finished the live stream, the play-by-play for Game 1, the Tigers versus the Astros. We got shut out again. It's the third time in 4 games. The Astros have basically given up 40 runs and scored 6 runs over the past several games. It's pretty bad. It really hurts. They've been blown out several times, shut out. Even the game that we won against the Orioles at home was a struggle and barely got it in 12 innings. The rotation for the Astros has been very thin. The bullpen has been taxed. Hader is not in the bullpen. The lineup is still missing Yordan. Paredes is out, and there's almost no chance for him to be back this year. Myers still isn't back. And that's a difficult combination. We've got short starts on our pitchers. We've got tired relievers and not enough run support. These aren't excuses. They're just facts. Meanwhile, there's another important pendulum swing going on here, and it must be mentioned, and that is the mood of the fans, because it does swing like a pendulum. So 1 week, Joe Espada is manager of the year, and then the next week, it's fire him. He's terrible. And then brilliant deadline moves about Dana Brown. And then the following Monday or a couple of weeks later, it's he didn't do anything. He didn't do enough. He didn't bring in another arm. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. And then about Jim Crane, it's, wow, he actually opened his wallet. He actually went out and spent. He actually did something. We don't believe it. And then a couple of weeks later, our owner's cheap. He never spends any money. This is literally what the Astros fans are doing online. It's 1 week this and next week that. 1 week this, next week that. Emotions completely dependent upon how the Astros are performing during those weeks' games. So the fact here is that we can be, and it's okay to be, passionate about our team. But to be erratic is nonsensical and the opposite of helpful. Facts do not change just because the score or the outcome changes. Part number 4. What about the next 2 to 3 weeks? And can we get some concrete timelines? Here's what matters the most right now, okay? Availability is changing for the Astros. Luis Garcia, he has been trending better during each outing. He hasn't just been extending his outings. His walks are going down. The hits are going down. The runs are going down. The strikes are going up. His control is looking better and better. Barring any setbacks, he's likely going to be back in about a week or less. Yordan Alvarez is tracking to return in roughly the next 10 days or so, by the end of August, maybe sooner. Jake Myers should be following also shortly after, within the next couple of weeks. JP France, although he has shown some really good improvements, he still has a little bit of work to do. Based on his current form, the most reliable short-term value that he could bring to the Astros, it might be multi-inning bullpen help, kind of filling in the middle, instead of slotting back in as a starter right away. That's okay right now because the Astros really do need some multi-inning bullpen help. They really do. But if you take out the control issues that he's trying to work out, France is actually looking better and better as he pitches more and more in the minors. He could be a big help for the Astros. If you plug all of those names into the current team with their abilities, their innate, on paper, historical abilities, then the picture of the team, the outlook of the team looks different. Pena and Correa protected by Yordan, some outfield defense, and extra depth from Myers, a bridge possibility, okay, a possible bridge arm from JP France to help shorten games a little bit, while the rotation is more rounded out, with Valdez Brown, of course, leading the group, with other guys coming back, Javier getting over his illness and continuing to pitch better, Garcia coming in, pitching better. Things are looking up. Part 5. Where does the race stand and why? As of today, August 19th, Astros still lead the AL West by 1.5 games. The Mariners closed the ground with a strong second half. I think they were 16-9. The Astros were basically 500 during that same time. But it all comes down to, and you have to give them some credit, they have recovered a little bit, the Mariners, but they added bats and stabilized their staff, and yet the Astros are still ahead 1.5 games. Late summer baseball comes down to two main levers: who gets healthy and who converts the high leverage innings. Okay? That's very important that we think about that. Houston's next 10 to 14 days are about returners and their roles. All right? The Mariners are in a different position. Their next 10 to 14 games aren't about returners and working out their roles. They are just sustaining a pace that they set before. They just have to keep playing well. The Astros have to first establish that and get some sense of normalcy and then continue that. So they've got more of a challenge, much more of a challenge than the Mariners do, actually. The Mariners have a tradition of fading out towards the end. So they've got a lot to prove. Can they actually come back and sustain and get to the end of the race? The Astros have less to prove, except for how they operate historically. Now, what about the Rangers? Well, they would need a little bit of a surge and a lot of help from other teams losing. So barring those things, they're probably going to end around the low 80s in wins and not really be a threat in the division. Let's take a look at Part 6. Evidence-based outlook. And this is not a hot take, okay? It's just based on data. Let's anchor to what we can literally actually say about the situation. Number one, if Jordan returns on schedule and he looks like Jordan, or even mostly like Jordan, then the run environment changes immediately. Pitchers have to pick their poison a little more carefully, and everyone around him will see better pitches. I mean, I know that a lot of people are thinking, yeah, Jordan can't come in here and save this team. But if Jordan comes in and he looks even decent, he's a big threat. And then the pitching staff of the other teams have to really take that into consideration. And that means they have to figure out a way to pitch around him and continue to pitch well to the rest of the team. And if they focus more on people like Jordan and other lefties, that's going to make the righties a little more successful. Have you thought about that? Well, that's the way baseball works. Number two, if Garcia comes in and plugs into the rotation, then one of two things could happen. Either the rotation stabilizes for the Astros, which would be a big deal, or you can push one of the current starters to the bullpen, adding a little length and a little swing and miss in the middle where we've been thin. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the Astros have really hurt a lot during that little bit of time between the starting pitcher, and the relieving pitchers. The closing pitchers, rather, you could say. That little middle space is where the Astros have been giving up a ton of runs. So adding a little swing and miss in there would be a big help. Number three, if JP France is actually able to come in and be used as a multi-inning bridge, then it's possible that we could reduce exposure to our fourth and fifth inning rough innings, fourth, fifth, maybe I guess you could say the fifth, sixth, seventh innings, somewhere in there. This is basically where the Astros have bled during these innings. Somebody like France, and maybe there have been some discussions about people like McCullers or whatever coming in these spots. I can't say if they'll do that or not, or if it's the right thing. But we do have some options for pitchers to come in. If we've got a few starters who are doing really well, then those guys in the middle have more of a chance. We have more guys that can play that middle role, that bridge role, and then set it up for people like a Brady to come in and lock it down. Number 4, if Myers returns cleanly, and he looks like he did mostly at the beginning of the year, for most of the year, then not only are we regaining defense in center field, but we're going to have better outfield alignment, and we have another contact bat because he has been trending up. These are all very important things. Altogether, these are very important. Now, when we talk about ifs, a 90-win finish for the Astros is very much within range. Very much. Even right now, the way things were this week, 90 wins is still no problem. Seattle, on the other hand, despite playing well, they don't profile as being a 90-plus win team. Maybe high 80s. As of right now, that's a 1 to 2 game margin for the Astros. Either way. And that's decided by health, leverage innings, and head-to-head play down the stretch. Schedule, all of those things wrapped together show that the Astros still have a favorable outcome by just a couple of games. Let's take a look at Part 7 before we close this. Part 7 is about fans, firmness, and fairness. None of this video asks you or any of the other Astros fans to stop caring. That's not what it's for. It just asks all of us to care well. Okay? There's a difference between being a good fan and a harmful fan. A toxic fan, if you want to call it. But I don't think that toxic fans are fans at all. They're just toxic people. So booing your own players, throwing trash on the field, calling for jobs, calling for heads after just a really, really bad week, no matter how bad it is, these things just don't line up with traditional Houston identity. And it doesn't change the reality of our roster. Availability and role and consistency, these things have been the story for the Astros. You wanted data over drama? At least I hope you did. If you're wanting drama over data, you can go somewhere else. But here is the data over the drama. This is a team that built a double-digit lead, and it's the same team that can win a tight race with its core back on the field. It doesn't matter what they look like this week. The path to the division and into the playoffs isn't mystical or fantasy. It's just math. And you get your best players back, you shorten the game, and you win the big, important at-bats and the situational hitting, then you can do it. It's as simple as that. Now, in closing, I'd like to finish that story. Let's go back to the story that I told you about earlier. Do you remember that team with the 10-game division lead that dwindled away? Did you think that I was talking about the 2025 Astros? No, I wasn't. I was talking about the 2024 Mariners. They had the cushion. They had the 10-game lead. The Astros were banged up. When the season came to an end, the Astros had caught them and just barely passed them. Seattle wound up watching from home. The Astros squeaked into the playoffs. Yes, of course. They lost in a very short series, unceremoniously, very quickly, to the Tigers. A young, eager Tigers team, and that was it for the Astros. But the fact that they even came back and got that far was absolutely amazing. It shows the spirit and the core of what the Houston Astros are all about and what the fans have traditionally been about. And we must continue to be that way. But here we are again right now. We are in a tight race with high stakes in the final weeks of the season. One club in the American League West has a track record of finishing, even when they get very dinged up and everybody seems to be against them, and they're written off by the media. That's not the Mariners. The other team has to prove that they won't fade away, and that is the Mariners. So who do you trust more in a close September race? Do you trust the Houston Astros more, traditionally, or do you trust the Seattle Mariners more? Just look at the core spirit of those teams. It's a no-brainer. The Astros have been in worse spots than where they're at right now, and they've still managed to finish strong. If the next 2 to 3 weeks go to plan, according to just the data, okay, with Garcia coming back, Jordan coming back, Myers coming back, possibly JP France bridging some innings, Javier getting unsick, coming back into the lineup, maybe Arrighetti getting settled down, maybe. Houston has everything it needs in order to write the ending that it really wants. I really believe that. It's not just a feeling. Whether they do it or not is up to them. But I do know that they have the ability to do it. So to say that this team is terrible, or that they suck, or that they won't get to the playoffs and things like that, these are not real fans. They're just haters. People who want to stir up trouble, and they're living in a state of mind that I don't want to have anything to do with. Until the last out of a game, until the last out of the season, you just can't count out this team. You can't count out the Houston Astros. It's just not something you can do. There's a reason why people started saying the Astros are inevitable. It's not because we spend the most money, and we have the deepest pockets, and we get the biggest stars. It's because we have the stars with the biggest hearts. We have the spirit. We have the things that those big market teams can't buy with money. That's really all that I wanted to say. This was a combination, a script that was based on data that I was able to do deep research for, and my own feelings and thoughts put together. I appreciate you joining me for the video. If you have any questions or comments, I would love for you to put them into the comment box below. But it's likely that I will play this live so that I can do a live chat with it. And actually, what I might do is even play it live and address questions and I guess you could say comments as it plays. But for now, that's all. Thank you very much for listening to this little rant. It's not really a rant so much, just my thoughts, something that I wanted to do after after reading some of the recent comments. It's been a rough week for the Astros, obviously. And after seeing a lot of the negative comments and the people getting a lot of the fans getting really upset and emotional, I just felt like, you know what? Logically and from a data perspective, how have the Astros really done this year? And what kind of things have they overcome? And traditionally, what have they done? And what are they most likely to do? And everything is still pointing towards the Astros winning the division, maybe if just by a little. Still, regardless, having an opportunity to get at least the wild card spot, if not better. And improving even more, despite the rough week that they had. And doing much better than they have in the past. So, I'm not really worried. And I believe that you should not be worried either. But that's all for now. Thank you again so much. Primarily to my members, my donators, my super chatters. Thank you for supporting the channel. I do this myself. I don't have anybody else helping me. Anything that you see on the channel, the graphics, the tools, everything that I use to do my channel, I have to put effort into myself. So your support in any way, shape, or form, in any positive way, shape, or form, is deeply appreciated. Thank you so much, and that's all I have to say for now, except for GEAUX STROS, and I will see you for the next game. As of right now, that'll be Game 2 versus the Tigers in Detroit with Hunter Brown on the mound. But for now, that's it. Hope you have a great day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. See you again soon. Bye-bye.